This is Justin DeClue coming to you with a special interview episode of the Important Cinema Club. What will soon follow is an interview I did with Andrew Barr, a poster artist, illustrator, jack of all trades when it comes to graphic design. Andrew has recently published a new book, Andrew P. Barr versus the Movies, which collects his 180-ish posters that he did for theatrical screenings in Toronto, Canada. These posters are bold, they're all different, and they span the gamut of movies that everybody knows to real obscure things that were often programmed by me and Peter Kaplowski for the Laser Blast Film Society. I've known Andrew for over a decade now, and he's done the majority of the cover art for the Golden Ninja video releases, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about his career, his artistic process, and for him to answer every question that I had as sarcastically and as blunt as possible. And if you'd like to purchase his new book, Andrew P. Barr versus the Movies, it is available at all Amazon websites. Please enjoy this interview with illustrator and poster artist Andrew Barr. So, Andrew, the real reason that I wanted to talk to you on this is because I want a stealth episode about our Evil Bong marathon. For people that don't know, me and Andrew Barr sat together in one room and watched all of Charles Band's Evil Bong films completely sober over one day. I think we might have died while it happened, and we've been living in a purgatory ever since.
We're finished watching those, right?
That's why I have you here. We have another Evil Bong movie to watch. What do you think you learned through that experience of watching those Evil Bong films?
That it's probably not a good idea to say, hey, Justin, do you want to watch all the Evil Bong movies?
Was it you or me that, threw that grenade, and then we both jumped on it?
I think you mentioned it. And I said, yeah, I'd probably sit through all of those.
I think my logic was there's got to be something entertaining about them if they've lasted 7 movies. And we discovered very quickly that is not the case.
No.
They are just awful, awful movies. Do not watch them. But if somebody contacted you and was like, Andrew, I want you to do some art for some Evil Bong films,
I'd say yes. I'd end up saying yes. I'm a mercenary.
You should make an amazing poster for Evil Bong that looks like the greatest movie ever. And people would be like, I gotta see this.
But you're saying the poster for Evil Bong doesn't do that?
But have you ever had to do a poster where you're like, I'm working with an IP or an idea that just how am I going to make this look appealing?
No, because most of the time I have no idea what I'm working on.
You just go into a haze and you wake up and there's a finished image when you're done?
A lot of the time, yeah.
So going all the way to the beginning, when did you decide this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw? Did you have any other pursuits that you wanted to do instead?
No.
So it's doodling, drawing, this is going to be my career.
Except when I was a kid, then it was surgery.
Surgery?
I wanted specifically to do surgery.
How long did that last? You're 25.
Pretty much.
Really?
No. It was till high school.
And then when you could, draw monsters for your friends, you're like, you're the coolest, Andrew. You're like, ooh, I could have a career of this.
Well, I figured it would be better to draw them than to build them, so...
Oh, wait. So you say you want to do surgery like a mad scientist? That you're
Yeah.
taking dead bodies and sewing them together?
I was very young when I saw Reanimator, and I was like, that looks like a fun job.
Wait, so you saw Reanimator and said, that's what I want to do? Go insane, get eaten by intestines at the end of the movie?
Yeah, so I thought that was a reasonable risk.
You're like, listen, it happened to this guy. What's the percentage it would happen to me? Probably pretty low.
I've seen the movie. I know the mistakes he made.
Exactly. So wait, when you started drawing regularly, what would you draw most of the time?
Monsters.
And so when you told your parents, hey, I'm going to do a career in the art of monsters, what was their reaction? Was there a lot of pushback?
No.
Get out of our house.
Well, I guess. If you think you can do it, do it.
Once you're 18, you're out the door. So did you go to school to study for that kind of stuff?
Originally went to Beale Art in London, just at a high school, which is a 2-year program of just commercial art stuff, printmaking, some artsy-fartsy stuff.
And were you like, when's the monster class? Monster anatomy?
Well, I was pretty much just drawing monsters for any assignment I could get away with drawing monsters for.
So did you have a path that you wanted to take? Were you just I'll just get into commercial artwork? I know nothing about actual artists and how they make money, graphic artists. You're a little bit older than I am. So back in the 60s when you were doing this stuff, was there nobody gets that joke on the thing, don't you?
Well, back in the 60s, it was easy.
Yeah. Have you seen Mad Men? Oh, it's great. Yeah, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do? When you go to school for, graphic design, is there a career path they, try to push you towards?
No, I originally wanted to be an animator. Did a lot of that at Beale, and then applied to Sheridan. Didn't get in. I was like, What else do I want to do? I like illustrating.
Did you have like any animated inspiration? I'm discovering this myself, even though I've known Andrew for like a decade now.
Just Tex Avery.
You're like, I'm gonna give Screwy Squirrel a second life.
Yep. I was like, all the Tex Avery stuff was the kind of jokes I like.
Violence.
Stupidity.
And then you're like, this is hard. I have to do more than one drawing?
Yep.
So you push the dream of animation aside and you decide I'll do illustration. What does that mean though? Like you're going into illustration.
I didn't know.
So you just graduate?
I figured I could go into illustration and then move into animation.
Oh, so you still had the animation dream in your head?
Yeah.
I mean, so you were in school at this point in the 90s?
Yeah, the end of the 90s.
And was there like an animation boom? Like where would you go work? I guess Ren and Stimpy and stuff like that.
Well, Nelvana was still around.
That rock and roll magic. Care Bears, Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, that's exactly
And
it.
did you want to direct or were you just like, I'd be happy to be an animator?
I just want to be an animator. I don't like being in charge.
Now, but you do have to be in charge when you do your art, though.
Yeah.
You're like, boss me around, please. Tell me exactly what you want.
I kind of prefer that. Yeah.
And so when you graduate, like, what were you applying for? Like, are you like, oh, I guess I'm a grocery store clerk like me when I got out of TV broadcasting?
Pretty much.
But you ended up, like, you do it, like, drawing as your full-time career. How long did it take to get to that place?
From the end of school till now, about 20 years.
But you pay your rent was doing drawing stuff.
But it was like newspaper stuff.
Because you went and you worked for the National Post, right?
Yeah.
And that was just like any like graphic that you see in the newspaper, that would be you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm being paid the big bucks. I'm going to buy a giant mansion, a solid gold rocket car. And then how long did you work there for?
13 years.
13 years? And they're like, listen, 13, unlucky number. We got to fire you now.
I got fired on the exact same day that Marty McFly gets fired in Back to the Future 2.
Wait, did you just look on the internet and it's like, this is the day that he gets fired and it changes every day?
No, it was, everyone was celebrating that this is the day Marty McFly gets fired in Back to the Future 2.
And did you rip off your double tie and you're like, oh, he was trying to warn me.
Spike kept calling and I was like, no.
He's like, you're a chicken, Andrew. Quack, 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 quack. Well, thankfully you didn't drag race, but what he was trying to warn you was not to watch the EVIL Bong movies. And we did it. And we died.
So curse him.
So the first time I met you was more than a decade ago because you used to do comic books, right? And so how did you get into that?
School. Well, there's a small group of us. We were doing a little comic instead of what we were supposed to be doing.
What was the comic about?
Kung Fu guys and robots and monsters and army guys.
And none of those people that you did comics books with ever went on to any fame. And if we said their name, people would not know who they are.
Well, Kagan McLeod.
Yes. Oh, I love Infinite Kung Fu. I know, I'm being sarcastic because I know who the people are, so if you say their names.
He's about the only one kept doing comics.
I mean, you know a few other people who did comics as
Yeah,
well.
but they weren't in that group at the time.
No, yeah, actually, his comic book, Infinite Kung Fu, is amazing, and it's like 800 pages. Like, I don't know how he did that, but it's out there. You can buy it. Top Shelf, I believe, published it.
It would have been longer, but I dropped out.
So wait, were you working on Infinite Kung Fu as well?
There was originally a plan that three of us, Kagan, me, and our friend Mike Phi, were all going to do a big interconnected martial world thing where it all tied together with Infinite Kung Fu, where my comics were like the weird drive-in garbage movies, monster stuff, sci-fi things. Then Kagan was all Kung Fu. Mike was the weird Western.
And wait, what happened to your part? You said you dropped out. Why?
I just got bored of comics.
Too much work?
Yeah. It's a type of storytelling that takes a long time and gets really boring and has zero reward in the end.
Yeah, because you like finish the comic, you put it out, you're like, look at it, and people are like, I don't have time to read it. You're like, it's 21 pages, it'll take you like 5 minutes. And they're like, no, thank you.
And you're like, this took me 5 years. And they're like, yeah.
The first time I met Andrew was at a comic book convention, and I made the mistake of walking down Artist Alley and making eye contact with one of the people, which was Andrew, and he gave me his big doe eyes, and I'm like, oh, I'll buy $70 worth of comics or whatever he had on his...
I like that you say that story that way when in reality I was probably talking to Lee or whoever was at the table next to me, and you looked down, picked up on the comics, and went, oh, what, $5?
No, I bought like a big bag of them that had like 7 in it. I remember looking and seeing like monsters and stuff like that, and there was luchadors in the comic, which I still have. And I was like, oh, this looks really cool, and that's why I picked it up.
Reread them. There's bits of Infinite Kung Fu legend in there, too.
There's like a monkey doing fighting. I like this. And you don't even have any of those comics anymore,
I
right?
think I got a couple kicking around somewhere.
And so you're working for the National Post. When do you start doing movie-related stuff?
While I was still at the National
And
Post.
like, was it just like doing fan art that you were putting out there?
Once in a while I do, weirdly, posters in the post.
Do you remember any that you had to do?
They were usually dumb things. We did a whole series of... Remember when Battleship came out?
The Peter Berg classic, of course.
It's a great movie. They wanted to do a series of fake articles about other board games being turned into movies. I did half of a series of parody posters, like Big Wheel, based on the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Right. And where people are like, I like this. And you're like, oh my God, a reaction from something? I got to make more of these.
Some 80-year-old woman wrote in wanting to know if she could get a copy of the posters that we had done.
Did you continue to start doing like art stuff on your own? Like when did you start to like really transfer into like more movie-based stuff?
When I got fired.
Oh, so when you got fired, you're like, you got your bindle, you're walking down the street, and you're like...
I need to make money now.
Oh, so wait, do you remember the first like illustrations that you were doing and being paid for when it came to movie-related stuff?
That would have been... Riot?
That was the first movie-related stuff, was us hiring you to do that for the Laser Blast Film Society. Wow. I just assumed that you were just doing movie stuff all the time. You were still doing movie-related stuff, because I remember seeing it on, like, your Facebook at the time.
I don't remember doing any.
I just remember you, like, trolling people with you, like, the aliens aren't called xenomorphs. That is a broad category. Or Jason Voorhees doesn't kill anyone at Camp Crystal Lake.
And if we're going to call the aliens xenomorphs, why don't we call Michael Myers the Boogeyman? No one calls him Michael Myers in the movie.
It's a fight that is not worth picking with Andrew. You will not win. He is just trolling you. So you start doing posters for the Royal. We asked you to do one. When did other people start approaching you to do them?
Shortly after that.
And so when you get somebody that says like, oh, I want you to draw a poster for my movie, what is the process that you go through? Like, I know some people are like, this is exactly what I want. Or do more people just say, do whatever you like?
A lot of them say this is exactly what I want. And then other times they're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, what's the movie about? And they're like, I don't know. Like, well, can you send me some stills? We haven't made the movie yet.
I mean, you're making it sound here like you literally like worked at the National Post and then we hired you for a poster and that's the first. And I know that's not true.
In between the Post and doing movie stuff, I was doing stuff for rock
bands. Yeah. You're like, only rockabilly or horrorbilly. That's all I do.
Psychopunk and horrorbilly. Yep.
Because you get to draw monsters, which is what you like to do.
Yep.
But like at the Royal, so people would pitch you stuff. I always find that when I tell you exactly what I want, you're like, is this what you want? You're like, I guess. And I'm always like, if I just let Andrew do his thing, it would have probably been better than putting you in a box. But you say you like being put in a box. Yeah. Just give me the things I can trace over. That's basically what you want, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Like, what do you go towards as far as like inspiration when you're like designing a poster? What do you think is important about like a movie poster to sell it, to make it look good?
That it looks interesting. That the title's on it.
Oh man, you're killing me, Andrew. So you don't have any like artistic principles that you go towards? Like, I like to do like one bold image or like...
It depends on the thing.
Whatever's easiest. That's what Andrew says.
I wish I would say that, because a lot of the time I don't do what's easy.
No, yeah, because you do hard stuff. And a lot of the stuff, like, I mean, you like to joke, you're like, I don't watch the movies. They don't pay me enough to watch the movies. But you often like get a very dynamic idea that speaks of the movie, even though that you haven't seen it. And is that because you like look at a bunch of photos or watch a trailer for it? Like, what are you looking for?
Usually I just ask the person who's asking me to make the poster, what's this about? And then they tell me. And then if I can't come up with anything from that, I'll look up stills.
Because like I'm thinking of like Vivre sa vie, the Jean-Luc Godard film. You have a very striking poster for that. Did the programmer tell you, this is what I want exactly?
She said, I want a picture of the star. And I was like, okay, I don't know who she is.
So you go into Photoshop and you like cut it out and you put it on the poster and you're like, done.
Kind of, yeah.
That's not what you did.
No, I looked at the imagery of the movie, tried to figure out who the actress was, and then just did a nice little portrait of her with what I thought was the mood of the movie, which fortunately I was correct in guessing the mood.
And so when you're like starting a piece, do you like sketch out a thumbnail first? Like what is your artistic process? I'm genuinely curious.
See, this is the part that always makes it hard to interview me, is because...
You don't know? Again, you're like Stephen King writing Cujo. You're like, I blacked out. When I woke up, it was done.
There's been a few that I'm like, I don't know where I came up with
But
this
even just like on a technical level, do you have a workflow that you utilize when you like start working on a poster?
No. Every poster I've done, pretty much not the same workflow. It's like sometimes I'll just do it like right from the start. It's like, okay, here's the poster. Sometimes I'll do like 6 to 12 thumbnail sketches of nonsense that end up not looking anything like what the final version of the poster looks
So
like.
it sounds like whatever, the way that you're feeling is how you approach it to keep yourself from getting bored, I guess.
Kind of, yeah.
And how long is like the timeline for like doing like a poster, for example, for the Royal?
It could be anywhere from 2 hours to 3 days.
Now, when you do it over 3 days, is that like you do a bunch of thumbnails, you're like, this is garbage, you come back to it the next day, you do something, you're like, this is shit. You throw your computer in the garbage, you restart.
That's exactly it. I'll just randomly draw the whole thing up and be like, the next day be like, nope, why did I do that?
And so when you send something to someone, do you always like, are you like, oh, I hope they don't say that they don't like it, I'm gonna have to redraw it all?
No.
That doesn't happen very often?
No.
You're like, I'm just so good. So what were your like artistic inspirations though? Like you talked about monster art. Like, who are the ones that you're like, I love those guys' stuff, and I wish I can bring a little bit of that flavor to my own work?
Usually it's like Reynold Brown did a lot of the 60s posters. Like, he did the Creature from the Black Lagoon poster, a lot of the Vincent Price, Roger Corman movies. He's the one that did the Mask of Red Death poster with Vincent Price's face made up of
Right,
people.
like the big giant one. It's like, yeah, that's a great poster.
Like a girl is his nose and stuff like that. Then, of course, Basil Gogos.
Good old Basil.
And then a lot of my other influences are comic artists, like John Severin, Steve Purcell, the EC crew.
John Severin, I don't know that guy.
You don't know John Severin? Did a lot of Cracked magazine.
Oh, like if I saw his style, I probably know exactly what it is.
Yeah, if you saw his style, he did Western comics a lot and war comics.
What's about his style that like catches your eye or that like aesthetically you find pleasing?
I don't know. No, he's just been an artist that I've always been like, I really dig this.
You're just an enigma, Andrew. You're like, nah, I just like it. Can't explain. Artistic process. I black out. The image is done.
It makes me really wonder why I bothered going to art school.
Listen, your parents were like, you're out the door. You got to be in school. Follow your dreams, but don't do it here.
I don't know what it is, but I know what I like.
So has there been like a project in your mind that you've wanted to do that you're like, oh, that's too much work or stuff like that?
Nope.
So you've just been happy just doodling?
Yep.
Are there projects that you do on your own time that you don't show anybody?
No.
So like one of the things that you've done a lot of is like the monster drawings. How did that come about? Where like every day you make up a new monster and you write a description and backstory of that monster and then post it online.
I was bored and I was sick of seeing pretty much everywhere I looked fan art.
Even though you're like, fan art is the thing that pays the bills, baby.
But so everybody's just doing fan art. Nobody's adding anything new to anything. You know, like how many times do you have to see someone draw Frankenstein? So I just wanted to see how many monsters I could throw out in the world without being, without doing fan art.
And how many monsters did you draw?
Not including the fan art ones.
Listen, I got to pay the bill somehow.
Well, no, I did my own versions of things, but it was about 450.
Wow. And you're still doing it to this day, right?
Because I got stuck in a rut and I can't stop drawing them. I need help.
I wake up, it's like idle hands, like my hand is drawing them. And so, but you do everything digitally now, right?
No, it comes and goes. Like the monster stuff is all brush and paper. The poster stuff is, it's digital, but a lot of it starts as pencil drawings and stuff. I hate the idea of paint.
What do you hate about it?
It's mud. Pushing mud around is
That is a very bold, hot take when it comes to painting.
Yeah, I just never liked paint.
What about like the Monstars? Wait, is that what they were called? The little monster men that you used to do?
Yeah.
See, like you're not giving me anything, so I have to be like, wait, what did Andrew do? Oh yeah, he did a lot of these.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's you're the interviewer. You're supposed to be doing
all the
this.
research I've done. I've been studying you for 10 years. So the Monstars are like, I guess they're like your version of Funko Pops before Funko Pops existed. And how did that come about?
I wanted to see how quickly I could draw a recognizable film character the fastest. Like just how quickly I could do
you remember the first one that you did?
Gizmo.
The Monstars are like little blocky kind of popular characters that Andrew draws in one particular style. That you can see it and you're like, oh, that's an Andrew drawing.
They all start as a rounded rectangle.
So you did the Gremlins, and then you're like, wait a minute, this is fan art. People like this. I could keep doing this, right?
No, actually, no one noticed that I did it. So I was like, oh, crap. Well, I guess I have to do more.
I remember a friend of ours, acquaintance, he's much too famous, Trevor Henderson, going through your Monstars, and you were like, if you can guess every one, you can have them all. And he just couldn't get it. He's like, what? I don't know what this one is.
Yeah, he didn't get 3 of them.
Do you remember which ones they were?
They were weird ones.
You got to put in Peter Kapowski from Teddy Bomb in there that you drew, because people will never get that anytime you do that contest again. So I know I asked before, like, if there's something that you wanted to do, but like, do you have like a dream job? of like, oh, if I could draw this every day, I'd be happy.
Dream job is just to get paid to keep drawing.
And that's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So you're not like, I wish I don't know, worked at a monster factory of some sort where I got to draw monsters every day.
I literally don't care what I'm drawing as long as I'm drawing.
So I guess that's how you got through 13 years of the National Post, of like drawing diagrams and stuff like that. And so how did the book come out?
Andrew Barr versus movies.
The #1 Amazon bestseller in film, TV, and video for 2 days. Three. Man, that's a long time.
Dropped instantly to 8th place as of today.
I remember looking at it and you were in 2nd place like yesterday. Was the Netflix book beating you, but nothing else? All right, so how did that book come about? When did you decide, like, listen, this is a money-making opportunity?
I didn't actually think of the money-making aspect of it.
Of course. You know, you're like, I'm not going to make any money on this.
What would be a fun book to put together that 4 people would buy? And I was like, all those posters I did for the Royal.
But at the same time, I remember sitting beside you at tables when you're selling your stuff. People would go through that Royal poster book, and their eyes would get big anytime they saw something they recognized. And they'd be like, one of those, please. They'd flip back past the Laser Blast posters, because they're like, I don't know these movies. And then they'd be like, ooh, Freddy, give me one of those. You're laughing because you know it's true.
Yeah, this is the Freddy's in that. I'm like, no, the Laser Blast ones. They're the good movies.
Yeah, right. Don't you remember the classic Gary Daniels PM Entertainment movie? It takes place during Christmas.
What about Nemesis? Nemesis.
Oh, Nemesis is great. What an amazing poster. So yeah, so you decide to put all these posters together, and in classic Andrew Barr fashion, I remember you posted on Facebook being like, will anybody buy this? They're just going to be the photos, nothing else. Yep. And how did you react when people were like, oh, we'd love to write, like, words? Well, I know what your reaction was. Oh, more work. No, thank you.
Actually, I was very touched that anyone actually wanted to write anything about what they did for the Royal and those screenings.
And so how many pieces did it end up being overall? Do you remember?
184? Yeah, 184 posters.
And how many written pieces were there? Like people that actually stepped up and wrote essays for you?
10?
Yeah, that's a lot. So you put this book together and you did it very quickly. How did you feel when you were looking over all of this art that you had done? Where you're like, this is good? Or you're like, eh.
I was like, what a waste of time.
Why did I put this together? Because I remember flipping through it, and it's kind of almost like overwhelming, all the art that you've done. And there's a lot of horror artists or like monster artists that we know that like you look at their art, you're like, that's good. And then you look at their other art, you're like, that's good too, but it's the same. And then you look at the other pieces like, oh man, it's the same thing again. Do you fear that like that repetition of when you do stuff?
I actually fear the fact that I don't do that.
Really? Do you think that it's not giving you like a specific style that people can recognize, and that's keeping you from, being that guy?
Yeah.
That's a bummer. I don't think that. So you've never tried to like stamp down your own style then? I mean, when I see a piece that you've done, I know instantly that you've done it.
Like, I'm not saying that you can't tell that it's me.
Wait, are there any skulls on this poster? That's how you know it's an Andrew one.
Skulls are fun.
Yeah, skulls are the best. Anytime there's a chance of something with skulls, Andrew will give it to me just filled with skulls. Like perfectly detailed, like drawn.
This is a romantic comedy, Andrew.
Wouldn't it be more romantic with skulls? So you've considered that idea of like, I have my own style, or I could have my own style, but I choose not to because I find, trying to experiment more interesting.
I think it comes from I am easily bored, which is weird because like I'll do a lot of repetitive stuff.
I was going to say, you're easily bored. Haven't you been living like the same life for 20 years? Like living in the same apartment?
Yeah, there's movies I've seen like 30 times.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what are some of your favorite movies? I didn't even ask that question.
I don't only do movie stuff.
What other kind of art do you like to do as far as like beyond posters?
Actually, no, I do just like posters.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm like, do you have some like, you're like, oh, I'm writing a series of like historical fiction novels and I've done a bunch of posters for them. This is my true passion.
I like doing book covers and stuff. And I was like, well, that's just basically it's a poster that's on a book.
Yeah, exactly.
Like album covers. No, that's a poster on a CD.
So we've talked about the stuff you've done for the Royal. Now let's talk about the most important thing you've ever done in your life, which is the Gold Ninja video covers. I remember when I asked you to do them, I'm like, oh, Andrew's a big art guy. I don't know if I can ask him. I'm sure he's very busy with things.
Actually, seriously, that was one of my dream jobs.
Really? Doing like Blu-rays and DVD covers?
For a niche market.
You had done some before though, right? Because you had done some before. I remember you had done some like Tucker and Dale versus Evil for like a UK or German
Yeah,
company.
a German company I did a bunch of stuff for that they never used.
Really? I mean, yeah, because anytime you told me stories about it, it sounds like the hell of being a graphic artist. Is that, like, they'll tell you, this is what we want. You're like, okay, here you go. They're like, I don't want that. You're like, but that's what you said you wanted.
But then they pay me, and I'm like, okay.
And so you do this boutique Blu-ray stuff. What do you like drawing? I mean, obviously stuff with skulls in them. Like, what are the movies that excite you?
Anything, really.
I'm not asking you to draw like, yes, this is a very intimate Gold Ninja video release. A drama between two elderly people who find love once more. No, I'm mostly like, draw Bela Lugosi chasing after a Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin impersonator. Also, make sure there's a gorilla on the cover. So it sounds like that you're just living the dream. You want nothing in your life to change, and you have no aspirations at all.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
Folks, I know Andrew. This is classic Andrew Barr. So when you ask Andrew a question, it's often like sarcastic, like, yes, no, mm-hmm. Would people in your life say you were always like that? Like that dry, sarcastic wit in response?
Probably.
Or back when you were a kid, were you like, I'd like to tell you about the Shakespearean sonnets that I've read, and people are like, shut up, nerd. You're like, okay.
I've probably always been like this.
Do you think it influences your art? Like, does it allow you to focus on it, or
no? Not
at all. You're like, I'm just gonna keep drawing because if I don't draw, I'll be bored.
That's pretty much it. I got to keep drawing because if I'm not drawing, then I'm not drawing, and I don't know what to do other than that.
When was the last job that you had that wasn't drawing?
Banking.
Banking? You definitely look like a banker.
I was a teller at TD for a while.
If anybody wants to picture what Andrew looks like, picture a Canadian, more handsome Hank Hill.
But didn't Will say that I look like your younger brother?
Oh, well, I do have a younger brother named Philip, so maybe, yeah. Hey, wait a minute, my brother's like that too, giving me sarcastic responses to everything I ask.
Yet I'm 1,000,000 years older than you. So how come I look like your younger brother?
Oh, well, I'm glad we could go through this discovery together, Andrew, and I hope that everybody listening to this will go out and buy your book, which its title is...
Andrew P. Barr versus the Movies.
Because if you want, like, every kind of poster there is, check this one out. Because you're not going to look at this book and be like, oh, yeah, I know this poster and that poster. You haven't seen these unless you live in Toronto or you follow Andrew, so... Great stuff like Lone Wolf and Cub, The Tingler. What are some of your favorites in the book?
Donkey Skin.
Oh, Donkey Skin's a really nice one, yeah.
Another movie I had no idea what it was when I did the poster. And I saw it and I was like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, because you often would draw the poster and then go see the screening that you drew the poster for.
I'd say more than half of the movies in the book I hadn't seen before I did the poster.
Or what are some other favorites? Just so people can go look and be like, oh, that is good. I want to see the other ones.
The basket case poster.
Oh, that's a really good one. Yeah, you gave that one to Frank Hellenauer, didn't you?
No, I gave him a little print of Elmer that I did.
I ain't going out of my way to give him a full poster.
I didn't have any of them at the time. They sold out.
Did you do a brain damage poster too?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a cool one, I remember.
Yeah, I like those too. The pin poster. Kind of as a compliment to the basket case one, weird families.
I really like the Nemesis one, like we mentioned earlier. That one's really cool.
That was a hard one.
Yeah, that one's really detailed.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was going to do for that.
The problem when I want to give Andrew stuff, I'm like, yeah, do it cool. The guy's diving in the air and he's firing his gun. Andrew's like, well, how am I supposed to draw this? Yeah, what are the things you hate when people ask you to do it?
Too many faces.
Too many faces. You don't like doing faces.
I think that's the most boring poster you
Unless it's a skull.
Unless it's a skull. But if you want me to put skin on those skulls...
No, yeah, forget about it.
Instead, you'll get a picture of a knife going through an eye or something.
Or some monster. What's your favorite monster to draw?
The alien.
I guess. I was hoping for like a more fun, like, I don't know, like King Kong Lives from the classic Dino De Laurentiis sequel to his American King Kong.
No.
What are the monsters you hate to draw?
King Kong.
Really?
No, I've never drawn King Kong.
I thought you would have been like 100% a gorilla guy. I have some of your comics. They're filled with gorillas.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like gorillas.
You don't like gorillas?
I don't like drawing gorillas.
You're such a liar. I have a comic right here that has gorillas in it. This interview has been nothing but lies. It's an evil bong related fever dream. So if people do want to hire you, though, where should they reach out?
My website, apb-art.com.
And you take commissions, anything that people want to draw. Like you said, as long as you're drawing something, you're happy, right?
As long as I'm being paid, I'm very happy.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. What if I told you I could pay you with experience?
That's not being paid.
Well, thank you very much for doing this interview, Andrew.
It was fun.
Wait a minute. I just started recording again because Andrew said you did a newspaper strip for a while. What was it called?
Belligerent Lobster.
Okay. And what was it about?
It was a 4-panel gag strip That really wasn't that funny.
Was it like David Lynch's like World's Angriest Dog? Or?
It was like The Far Side, except for dummies.
Far Side, I mean, I'm not being sarcastic, is a thinking man's comic. And wait, how long did it get published for?
6 or 7 weeks.
Oh, not very long.
Might have been 6 or 7 days. I forget how it ran.
Where?
The National Post.
Wow.
In a cost-saving measure, they got rid of the comics page and then asked a bunch of the artists at the Post if they wanted to do newspaper comics.
Oh, so they would just pay you the same amount they pay you on salary.
There's just part of the salary. Yeah.
And it only lasted 7 weeks? What put the stake through the belligerent lobster's heart?
I think I just got tired of doing it. This is hard trying to be funny.
So it was a daily strip?
I think it was a weekly.
Oh, so you did only 7 of them?
Yeah.
Can you find them anywhere?
They should be on my Instagram.
Okay. And what's your Instagram?
APB_.
All right. Well, I will definitely check that out. Andrew is constantly a box of mysteries that you open it up and then you're like, oh, wait, only 7 weeks.
When you read them, you'll see why. Actually, I think they killed it because they didn't like the idea of my film noir strip that it turned into.